The Flood is arguably one of the main threats to humanity's existence in the Halo universe. But for those that have already fallen into the ranks of the presumed Tier 0 species, what exactly happens? Let's jump into it and find out. What is going on, y'all? Thanks for clicking my video to watch. Before we get to the video, I've got about 15 seconds of nonsense to say, so strap in for that. If this is your first time finding my channel, I typically cover lore, morphology, biological augmentations, and news of video games. Got an idea of something you want to see covered extensively? Drop it in the comments and I'll do my best. Make sure to smash that sub button and the Notre Dame bell if you want any updates of when I upload. Alright, let's get to the Nerd Out Fest. The Flood and humanity are foes to one another that go back 100,000 years. When humanity first discovered the powdered remains of the precursors, they foolishly took this powder and began to give it to the animals around them. This would eventually lead to them becoming more aggressive and with strange growths in their bodies. Eventually, these animals would create this new disease that would jump species and begin to infect humans. Humans attempted to cleanse the infection by destroying entire worlds, but unfortunately, some of these worlds were not even their own species. Focusing purely on the humans, however, they would eventually be wiped out from their Tier 1 status by the Forerunners due to the fact that the humans were cleansing Forerunner worlds. The two-sided war that raged would ultimately seal their fate as they were then bussed back down to Tier 7. The parasite still raged in the cosmos, however. I would call humanity after the war with the Forerunners just really of no consequence. Put on the Ark and receded back onto Earth, all went quiet for a while after the firing, at least, for humanity. Then roughly 100,000 years later, the Flood was once again released during the Covenant War. The Covenant foolishly unleashed the parasite on themselves and the humans fighting them. But what does the Flood do to the human form? How does it alter it? What happens to the host's mind? Let's get to it. The Flood doesn't care. As Cortana puts it,
Halo doesn't kill Flood, it kills their food. Humans, Covenant, whatever. We're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life. You don't believe me? Ask him.
anyone at any time can be changed into a combat form. Your best friend who was fighting by your side minutes ago now might be attempting to kill you. To quote Specialist Archibald Berger, knowing that monster firing a battle rifle at you used to be Kevin from 2nd Platoon is just creepy. That could be me. A human combat form is not a natural organism. Instead, it is very clearly a mutated human that is altered by the Flood to fit its own purposes. Unfortunately for the humans, however you look at it, we possess enough biomass to warrant the Flood's attention and time to make us into combat forms. When an infector pod latches onto a human, they will utilize their tentacles to form a neural connection with your nervous system. This is going to hijack your body away from your brain. Think of it as a stronger brain that latches onto you. It sends out a signal to your body, and your body would probably assume it's coming from your brain. All the while, these signals will then block out the signals coming from your brain, as you would very clearly be attempting to try to regain control. The issue of this creature hijacking your brain is rather far-reaching, unfortunately. Obviously, it would lead to the death of the host, but what exactly does it do? Luckily for you, you're listening to the right guy. I've taken multiple anatomy courses in pursuit of my biology degree. Coupled with all the information out there, I believe I can present to you at least two ways of how this happens. The first way seems to be the easiest. Your heart just straight up stops. The Flood does not need living tissue to actually infect. So once it can get your heart to stop by stopping the signal that comes from your medulla oblongata, which is the lower portion of your brain, you would lose oxygen to your brain rather quickly. When this does happen, you will be killed in more than likely under a minute. But in fact, your heart stopped, you would be clinically dead at this point anyways. This seems to be the easiest way, as it's almost sort of a passive way of the infection form killing you. It is already blocking the signals from your brain at this point, so it's just easy to block the heart signal. The second way is much more aggressive. Because the infector pod is taking control of your nervous system away from you, it now has control of your arm and neck muscles. It is noted that in some cases, the Flood pod will snap your own neck. To break a human neck is apparently not really that difficult, noted to be about 3 pounds of pressure. The muscles in the neck twist to the point of the cervical vertebrae, and they're disconnected from one another, and that would probably also leave the spinal cord severed. Now, this could either be done, I believe it's the muscles themselves in the neck twisting by being utilized by the flood's purpose, or your own arms do it. I could not imagine a worse way to go though, your own freaking arms killing you. That would suck. So anyways, with the spinal cord snapped, this would immediately stop all signals from the brain at this point because you would be a paraplegic. The infector pod would then have complete control over your body with no in-house fighting to control. Now the first way and the second way are dependent, I believe, on the strength of the infector pod. An average pod would probably go with method 1 as it requires less input, whereas method 2 would require a much stronger pod to do much more as it would need to control your skeletal muscles pretty much from the get-go. If a pod is weaker and older, then there is a possibility that it actually won't fully infect you. Private First Class Wallace Jenkins experienced this. When he was infected with a pod that was damaged or just too weak from being kept in the, I believe it was the underground facility the Forerunners had to study the flood, basically it wasn't able to fully infect him, and it didn't really kill him either, so god. It did, however, continue the infection process while he was still living. Ultimately, Jenkins would be killed, and I actually plan on making a video going over the process since it wasn't like normal human process. He kind of got completely screwed. So, speaking of process, what is the process? Well, to start, you can be converted in actually under a minute. Sometimes it will take longer, however. After the neural link is formed and you are killed, your body goes into rapid decay. The internal organs liquefy and are then utilized in other areas of the body. The bones and calcium deposits are sent mainly to the arms to create a whip-like structure that pushes your bones out of the way and exits through the arm. It is said that the process is incredibly painful, extremely terrifying, and will ultimately kill you. So maybe the flood is actually doing us a favor by taking your brain early in the game just out of the equation. Human combat forms still maintain their shape, size, and abilities of the soldier it has infected. They are still able to wield weapons against their previous allies, drive vehicles, and also board enemy vehicles too. The Flood have a plan for the brain if the human is high-ranking as well. Once infected, they will slowly work their way into the mind of the person, taking all the information they have to offer. This is showing when the Flood are beginning to construct a primordial grave mind, and Captain Keyes has become fused with this pod. In an attempt to retrieve the information from his mind directly, he is able to resist until the end, but ultimately the Flood will take whatever is in your mind. They can't be stopped, nor do they care about what neurons they destroy in the process. Not only is your body jacked from you, but eventually your mind is as well. So, what are some morphological traits and their consequences? The human Flood form is significantly smaller than, say, the Sangheili Flood form, as pre-mortem they were also smaller anyways. Due to the smaller size, they have some clear disadvantages. The main disadvantage that comes to mind is they are going to be less capable of sustaining the same amount of damage as, say, a larger combat form would have. They are still pretty tough, however. As long as the chest cavity and legs remain functional, they will still continue the fight against their enemies. The size has given them some advantages over the larger combat forms, however. They appear to be more alert and quicker to attack an enemy. They're going to be a smaller target, and this would stand to reason that they're going to be harder to hit. They are also much more agile than, say, a brute form or even still a Sangheili form. The Flood infector pod has taken front and center. Its face has emerged out of the chest of the human, pushing the bones and liquefied organs out of the way. The head is vestigially slumped over the shoulder as it serves no purpose anymore. In fact, shooting the head of a human Flood combat form does absolutely nothing to the creature. It will continue to fight and march towards you with absolutely zero issue. The face is permanently stuck in a screaming gesture. Then again, I'm pretty sure that if I was in that position, I would have probably been doing the same as well. A large tendril has emerged from the left arm and is able to flip warthogs, smash elites, and send Master Chief, who, if you didn't know, weighs 1,000 pounds due to his Mjolnir armor, flying through the air with a solid hit. Some of the armor will remain on the combat form, but for the most part, it has been forced off the body due to the mutagenic growths that the person has suffered. It is clear that the strength of the muscles are being used at maximum capacity. Not only can they send thousands of pounds flying through the air, but they can also jump much further than any human should be able to, almost as far as, say, a jackal, and jackals were evolutionarily designed over millions of years to be able to do this, whereas humans were never meant to be able to jump that far. The right arm has been the least altered. The Flood has apparently learned the anatomy of the human and left it relatively unaltered so that they continue using any weapon that they find. Ultimately, the transformation process is a brutal, terrible process for an individual. During infection, it seems as a mercy killing.
I did them a favor. Yeah, that's it. I helped them.
Would be the better route, as the internal turmoil and individual experiences would be a literal hell. The form left over is dangerous, quick, and efficient. The combat form has been known to convert entire planets within days. It is guaranteed that if a human combat form existed on Earth, the military would fall relatively quickly and the planet would be transformed quickly after. This is why in Halo 3, I believe it is High Charity shows up in our atmosphere, and it's Shipmaster, I forget, one of the shipmasters essentially has to glass half a continent to make sure every flood spore is decimated. So you gotta glass half the planet just to make sure that these guys don't spread. Alright guys, well that's all the time I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my video going over the human combat forms. Please like and subscribe if you did enjoy it. I hope to see you guys in the comments if you're new here, and if you have any ideas on what you would like to see analyzed through a biological lens, then please let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I will catch y'all in the next one.